My mom forced me to share my room with her boyfriend's kid who damaged my archery bow. So I moved out, exposed everything, and my dad took full control. I'm a 16-year-old male. My mom completely destroyed my privacy and didn't care about me after meeting her new husband and stepkids. I tried my best to come to an agreement, but she made it clear that she didn't care about what I had to say. Whatever I did is her fault, but she's been saying a lot of awful things about me, so I thought I'd ask you guys on Reddit if it's my fault. So, my mom and dad met when they were on vacation with their families. To put it bluntly, I was probably a drunk mistake. My parents both went back to their hometowns after their vacation, not expecting to ever see each other again, but my mother found out she was pregnant. She reached out to my dad over Facebook. They did the whole paternity test stuff, and when it was proved that my dad was indeed my father, they agreed on child support and everything. My mom lived in a tiny town in North Carolina, and my dad lived and worked all the way over in California. Neither of them had feelings for each other or wanted to move, so it was decided that I'd live with my mom and my dad would pay for childcare. I'm not saying I never saw my dad or anything, but we met pretty rarely. When I was younger, I used to spend time in California during summer break and stuff, but then I started archery in middle school and had to stay with my mom even during breaks for practice. I remember my first archery lesson like it was yesterday. The thrill of pulling back the bowstring, the focus it demanded. It became my escape, my passion. I'd practice for hours in the backyard, dreaming of Olympic trials. Dad understood. He'd send encouraging texts and even shipped me my first professional bow for my 13th birthday. Those rare visits to California were fun, building sandcastles on the beach or hiking in the hills, but archery grounded me here. I'm really serious about this. I want to compete internationally someday. So I've made my peace with not seeing my dad. He also got married when I was in 5th grade and has a family of his own. For the last 4 to 5 years, pretty much the only communication between my dad and I has been gifts and calls during our birthdays and Christmas. I was fine with all that. I used to be angry at my parents, but I'm over that now and just wanted to go through high school peacefully and leave for college. But my mom has ruined everything. So, my mom started dating this guy around a year ago. She has dated before as well, and I've even met a few of them over the years. Obviously, I have no problem with her dating. The problem is that she decided to move in with that guy, which would be fine, except that he was the one who moved into our place with his 2 kids. One of them is a little girl in elementary school, and another is his 11-year-old son. My mom and I live in a great apartment that my dad pays for. There are 3 bedrooms, which was obviously more than enough when it was just the 2 of us. When my mom told me that her boyfriend would be moving in with us, I assumed that the kids would share a room or something, but my mom told me that the girl needed a room of her own, and I would have to share a room with the other kid. I was not okay with that. I didn't even know this kid. I had literally only seen him twice before they moved in, and I wasn't comfortable sharing my room with some random person. I told my mom how I felt, and she said I was being unreasonable and selfish. She started emotionally blackmailing me about how this was the only relationship where she felt happy and I couldn't sabotage it by treating that guy's kids awfully. I didn't think I was being awful at all. The kids are siblings, so why shouldn't they be more comfortable sharing a room? Besides, if they were so intent on everyone having separate rooms, why didn't they just get a bigger apartment? Oh, that's right, because my dad was paying for this one. There was a lot of fighting. And eventually my mom managed to guilt me into giving the whole living situation a try. I really didn't want to do that. They moved in, and it was a disaster from the first day. That kid is incredibly nosy and literally tried to go through my things. I warned him to stay away, but he wouldn't stop annoying me in one way or another. The worst was when I came home from school one day and grabbed my archery kit to practice when I noticed that my bowstring was a bit messed up. I have just started using professional sets, and they're really expensive. I treat mine like it's sacred, so I know I didn't do anything accidentally, and it must be the kid. He was in the living room with my mom and his sister, and I barged in there and asked if he messed around with my bow. He avoided eye contact and said he didn't do anything. I told him I knew he was the one who damaged the string. My mom told me not to throw allegations without proof. I didn't have proof, but this kid has asked me many times if he could play with my kit, and I've said no because obviously it's not a toy, so I know that he must have done it. I raised my voice at the kid and told him I'd kick him out of the room if he didn't admit it. My mom tried to intervene, but I was very angry and didn't let her say anything. I guess I scared the kid because he started crying and said he didn't mean to do anything and it was an accident. I knew it. This was my last straw. I had to give up my privacy for this kid, and he has been nothing but intrusive, annoying, and a headache to me. The anger boiled inside me like never before. My bow wasn't just equipment, it was my future, my sanctuary from all this chaos. I'd spent countless evenings polishing it, adjusting the sights, visualizing perfect shots. To have it damaged by someone I never wanted in my space felt like a violation of everything I held dear. Tears stung my eyes as I realized how little my mom cared about my boundaries. I told my mom that I'd had enough, and if she didn't give me my room back, I would move out. She told me I was dramatic and petty, and that I was overreacting over what a child did. I would understand if the little girl accidentally broke something, but in my opinion, 11 is old enough to understand. You're not supposed to mess with other people's stuff. The fight escalated into other things, and I got really mad and told my mom that I'd be leaving by tomorrow. She told me she didn't care and she'd be happy to get rid of an entitled kid like me. I packed my stuff and moved out this morning. I'm currently staying with a friend of mine. I've decided to call my dad and tell him everything. Hopefully he'll be of some help, even though we haven't really talked for quite some time. Update 1. Guys, I've talked to my dad today. He told me that he'd take care of it and asked if I wanted to go to California to stay with him for some time. I told him I couldn't because of archery practice. He then offered to get me a hotel room for a few days while he gets things in order, but I told him my best friend and his parents are okay with me crashing for a few days. He also sent me money to replace my damaged bow, which is such a relief, honestly. I asked him what he was planning to do, and he told me not to worry about it and I'll have my own room soon. I'll let you guys know what happens. Update 2. My mom showed up at my best friend's house begging me to move back in with her. This was so hilarious to me. So I was just playing some video games with my friend when his mom came and told me that my mom was there to meet me. She had texted and called me as well, but I was too mad at her to text back or pick up her calls. Anyway, I didn't want to create a whole scene in front of my friend's family, so I went outside to the driveway to talk to my mom. She was weirdly sweet and told me that she was really sorry for taking my room away and for what the kids did to my bow. She told me that she wanted me to forgive them and move back in, and that she'd even give me the big master bedroom if I agreed. I was really confused. I didn't understand why she was being so sweet all of a sudden after taking her boyfriend's and that kid's side all the time. I was also still angry at her, so I told her that I would never live with her again and that I would rather move to California with Dad and his family than ever go back to her place again. I didn't really mean that. I was just angry, but I'm so glad I said it. I don't think my mom was expecting me to turn her down completely, so she got angry. Really angry. She told me that she had enough of me ruining her relationship and I had to move back in because my dad had threatened to stop paying for rent and sue her for negligence because of all the lies I had apparently told him. I argued back that I didn't lie about anything, and she was just absolutely hysterical. She started saying stuff like my dad wasn't the only one who deserved a family, and I was ruining everything. I had enough of her and told her to go away and came back inside. Standing there in the driveway, under the streetlights, I felt a mix of triumph and sadness. My mom's face twisted in desperation, but it was her choices that led here. My friend's mom peeked out, offering silent support, which made me realize I wasn't alone in seeing the unfairness. I still feel like it was wrong for her to kick me out and only apologize because she wants money from my dad, but all the stuff she said kinda got to my head. AITA for telling my dad what happened. Update 3. Thank you all for the support, guys. It's really great to know that so many of you think my reaction was normal, and it's okay to be angry at Mom. I've talked to Dad, and he told me that I don't have to live with my mom and her boyfriend if I don't want to. We even talked about him looking into schools with a good sports program in California. I was feeling really bummed out, but after what my mom said, reading all your comments and talking to my dad, I feel a lot better. NTA. You're just a kid, OP. It's not fair for your mom to expect you to be fine with sharing your room with her boyfriend's kid even though you made it clear from the beginning that you wouldn't be comfortable. Also, it's clear that she was basically using you as funding for her 3-bedroom apartment, and that's the only reason she apologized. NTA. She deserves what happened to her. I get that she wants to find love and have a family, but she can't neglect you and prioritize her boyfriend's kids. I'm glad your dad really stepped up and you held your ground in front of her. Next story. I'm 19. My mom passed away 3 years ago. A parent's death is always going to be traumatic, but my older sister, a 25-year-old female, took it particularly hard. She was always really close with our mom, so I understood that it would be more difficult for her to process. Pretty soon after my mom's passing, around 7 months, maybe, my dad told us he was dating his best friend, Thomas. Thomas has been friends with my dad since they were in college. For all of our lives, we called Thomas our bonus dad because of how involved he was in pretty much everything. He came to our school plays, award ceremonies, our graduations, and was there when we took prom photos. The list goes on. Nearly every single significant life moment I've had that my parents were there for, so was Thomas. It was a little bit of a shock when he first told us, but I love my dad and Thomas, and maybe some would call me cheesy or say that I'm reading too much into things, but there's something in my dad's eyes now that just reads as peaceful. I think he deserves that. My sister didn't take this announcement as well as I did. She claimed that it was way too soon after my mom's passing for dad to start dating. Now this is where I may be the a-hole. As I said, it's been 3 years since my mom passed, and so it's been over 2 that my dad and Thomas have officially been together. I understand that grief is different for everyone, and I still miss my mom every single day, but the bitterness my sister holds is unreasonable in my eyes. She came home over Christmas, but she's never been overly friendly with Dad or Thomas, and it frustrates me. I called her out on it this year in private and told her she needed to stop making our dad feel guilty for moving on. She claimed she knew more than I did, and that she was 99% sure that Dad and Thomas had something going on while my mom was still alive. I told her I didn't really care if they did. That might sound messed up, which is why I'm asking for judgment, but that's my dad's life, not mine. Deep down, her words hit me hard. Memories of Mom's last days flooded back, her smile fading in the hospital room. I'd catch Dad and Thomas exchanging glances, but I always chalked it up to friendship. Now, doubt crept in, but I pushed it away. Dwelling on the past wouldn't bring Mom back, and seeing Dad happy again was a rare light in our grief. I said that there was no reason for us to be angry on Mom's behalf because she's gone, but our dad and Thomas are still here, and she's wasting years with them worried about what I'm sure was a very nuanced situation. She hasn't spoken to me since Christmas. An edit, there seems to be a pervasive misconception I told my sister to move on. I never did that. I don't think anyone ever moves on from a parent or spouse's death in the sense that it just leaves their mind. I told her she needed to stop guilting our dad over choosing a new romantic partner. The title, Unable to be Edited, was me attempting to be concise and get across the point. I was asking her to let go of the animosity she harbors towards him, not asking her to move on from our mom. The comments insinuating I've forgotten about my mom or I don't care about her anymore are a leap and extremely off-putting to say to a stranger. YTA. Her feelings are valid. Her hurt is valid. She may, in fact, know more than you do, and that is also why she may be so angry and hurt. You have no right to tell your sister to get over it. Just because you're okay with the situation does not mean she has to be. You'll be lucky if she speaks to you again. YTA. The guy excuses the guy for using a woman as a beard. Her life, nothing you hear. It's fine. It's your choice to applaud and accept sexism, but then you decide you have the penis-granted right to tell a woman she doesn't have the right to react to her own experience growing up with a mother who is publicly used as a social shield and incubator. Let's stack all that privilege up and see if it makes you the god of her. Nope. You get to fondle and join in on your dad's ability to use women to get what he wants out of life, and your sister gets to acknowledge that her mother was used like a tool and cheated on throughout her marriage. Minus any proof Mom went into the marriage with full understanding and acceptance of the situation. It's unlikely. It's been multiple generations since the LGBTQ+ population had to marry to protect themselves, and if your parents had been a willing throuple, it would have been quietly known. YTA. If she knew that your father was cheating on your mother, then I'm sorry, she has every right to be mad. You have the right to decide his betrayal doesn't bother you, but it's not your place to require her to feel the same. Next story. I, a 21-year-old female, have an adopted sister, Amy, a 17-year-old female, and a biological brother, Dick, a 16-year-old male. My dad, a 52-year-old male, and my mom, a 45-year-old female, adopted Amy after fostering her. I do not live at home as I am at university, but went back for Christmas. Growing up, my parents always favored Dick and me over Amy. I did not have a good relationship with Dick, and he doesn't really respect me, but our parents always let him get away with everything. Amy had the worst room, and my parents don't let her use my room when I'm away, even though I said she could. When I lived at home, I allowed her in my room, and we used to spend time together. I was not mistreated by my parents, but clearly they had a special bond with Dick. Dick always never speaks to Amy. My parents kept discouraging me from speaking and having a good relationship with Amy indirectly. Amy was required to do more chores than the rest of us, and I tried to help Amy when my parents were away, even though she never asked me to. We have a fairly big house, and because of these extra chores, Amy did not have much of a social life, but she was very studious. I am too. Amy is doing fairly advanced courses for high school. My parents have always wanted me to be a nurse or a doctor, or told me they would only pay for my college if I picked something they would agree with. I wanted to do computer engineering, which they disapproved of. Amy also started getting into coding recently, although she didn't start as young as I did. I started saving for college, doing freelance work and releasing some apps. Those late nights coding in my room, with Amy peeking in curiously, sparked something in her too. We'd huddle over my old laptop, debugging simple programs, her eyes lighting up with each successful run. It bonded us against our parents' favoritism, turning my rebellion into her inspiration. Luckily, I got a partial scholarship and some loan funding, and I ended up going to a top school. One of my apps did quite well, and I started a company for it. Now I am comfortably paying off my debts when I need to, and I get paid a salary from my company. The thing is, I don't know how sustainable this will be in the long term, as it is just a startup, and if it loses momentum, it can fail. I'm considering hiring another developer to help support it, but I'm waiting until I graduate to decide about that. I also have investors interested, and I'm still thinking about that too. My parents have tried to sabotage my side gig, and I feel like it irks them, skipping the details because of character limit. During Christmas dinner, my parents announced to Amy that once she turned 18, they wanted her to retire, and she wouldn't have to pay rent but could stay as long as she keeps helping out with her chores. I saw red and told my parents that it was wrong to see Amy as a living slave and that she was smart and had a bright future ahead. They said they weren't going to pay for her to go to college for a useless degree and that they needed help since they were retiring. They are very upper middle class and could easily afford a paid maid. I said I would pay for Amy and for her to go live with me if she got to university in the same city. Now everyone thinks I'm the a-hole as I refuse to do the same for my brother and they aren't talking to me. I also gave Amy a high-end laptop since she had no computer, and they say I favor her. NTA. If your parents were so invested in equality, you wouldn't be in this situation at all, right? It's never wrong to uphold good values and share with loved ones, but neither is it your obligation to give equally to each sibling. It's a sisterly thing to do to look after Amy. That doesn't mean you're a jerk for ignoring your brother whose needs are already met. Good grief, a modern-day Cinderella story. Your parents should be ashamed of themselves. One would think they adopted her because they wanted better for her, but they clearly do not. As far as you helping out your brother, I'm sure they will help him plenty. You're only stepping forward to help your sister because they won't. I'm glad she has you to do that for her. NTA. Next story. I have a group of friends I've known since high school, and currently, we're all back in our hometown due to the holidays and recess at our universities. I've been out with them a few times, and one of my friends, Dave, brought a friend of his from his university, Mark. Mark's a good-looking guy and has that arrogance of someone who knows they're good-looking. That's fine, not my problem. The thing is, he got friendly with us quick enough to tell us things I'd rather not know. Essentially, from what he said, he takes pleasure in going out and making advances exclusively on women who are in relationships, especially married women. Initially, I thought this was some kind of joke and didn't care much. However, yesterday, we went out to a bar to get some drinks, and we were having a nice chat, and all, and that's when Mark saw a woman with a group of friends who seemed to be tearing up a little. I don't know the situation, but it's not unusual for people to cry in bars when they get drunk. Mark got up from our table like a damn tiger stalking prey, and zeroed in on the group. Quickly enough, he was seated beside the crying woman, talking to her. 30 minutes later, he comes to us, saying he's going to bail with her. Here's the catch. He told us she had a fight with her husband and he wanted to swoop in before it was too late. I was disgusted by that sentence. The dim bar lights flickered as rage built in my chest. Watching him smirk like he'd won a game, preying on her vulnerability. I'd seen enough heartbreak, from infidelity in my own family. My uncle's marriage crumbled because of something similar. This wasn't just flirting, it was predatory, and I couldn't stay silent. I'll be honest, I freaking hate cheaters, but I will never take the blame away from the third party if they know as well. Not only that, but I couldn't hold myself and told him flat out he was the worst person I had ever met in my life. Absolutely. A parasite. As you can imagine, things escalated, and I went home. Both Mark and Dave are angry, calling me names from an a-hole to worse things. My other friends are divided between supporting me and saying I should have kept my thoughts to myself. Later, one friend texted me privately, admitting he'd always been uncomfortable with Mark but never spoke up. It made me question the whole group's dynamics. I wouldn't change what I did, however. Now I'm considering if I should have just kept my mouth shut like people are saying. Anyway, was I the a-hole, and if so, was I the only one? NTA. He is an ugly little man and more people need to call him out. I'd be questioning my friendship with any friends telling you that you shouldn't have said anything. That is encouraging silence about his sick behavior. He is a creep, but they actively enable it. Do you really want to be friends with people who think this is okay on any level? He is actively finding women whose decision-making ability is altered and who are in vulnerable states physically and emotionally. What a predator in the sickest sense of the word. If I was forced to hang out with this guy in the club, I would actively make a point to tell that girl's friends what he was really doing and to stop their friend from going home with him. NTA, he's a predator and lower than slime. Anyone defending someone like that isn't a friend you want either. Time to start weeding out the undesirables from your social life. In the end, standing up might cost friendships, but integrity is worth more. I've learned that the hard way, and it's shaped me into someone who values real connections over superficial ones.